K-Trend Monitoring Office. How can I help you? And back joining us in the studio for K-Trend Monitoring Office is David. David, what's up, man?
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to K-Trend Monitoring Office. Why did I do that? I don't know why I did that.
Are you trying to take my job?
No. It was
that was a DJ comment.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, glad to be here, but then I remembered, like, I always say the same thing. So I was like, welcome, and then I didn't know what to say.
You know what it is?
Yeah.
You also host your own show.
Okay.
And you have certain automatic...
muscle memory?
Yeah, muscle memory stuff.
No, but for real, like, inside, I was like, I shouldn't say the same thing over and over again. And then I kind of like, like...
Do you ever go to 찜질방 or the 불가마's? You like
yeah.
You like
Every
it?
time after I play tennis.
Okay.
Yeah, with my 아저씨 friends.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got a message in from Ing, who wrote to us with a picture. This is an interesting one, guys. She said, Ing says, I went to a China-owned fake 찜질방 in my neighborhood. Zero oppas, just topless potbellies unks who let their sweat drip all over the floor and chairs. She says she's not fat shaming, very important here, but if I'm not flaunting my samgyeopsal, those men shouldn't too. Some even change out of their shorts in public. Mind you, there are women around. I'm so traumatized by indecent exposure, but I still have many sessions left. Owe my money. And she also sent the picture of the 찜질방, which looks very nice. By the way, we'll show that in a bit. But that's the problem, right? If you go to 찜질방, you specifically have outfits that you have to wear. Mm-hmm. And part of that is that so that you don't have the sweat dripping around everywhere.
Yeah.
But when you're taking that off, it just goes everywhere, and it's not sanitary.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is a cool picture.
But do people actually take it off?
She said in her country.
What?
Yeah. And so she's upset that, there are certain men who take off their tops and do this. It's not in Korea.
Yeah, that is not sanitary at all.
Yeah, so here in Korea, you have to have those on. It doesn't matter even if you have like a nice body, you still have to wear your clothes because, again, the big part of it is that all the sweat doesn't drop everywhere.
Yeah, it's even controversial in gyms.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people fight over, like, put on your clothes, are you going to clean the equipment after? But, like, in 찜질방s where they're actually, planned to program to make you sweat.
You know how we talked about showing skin?
Yeah.
You know what I saw a lot in Jeju this past week? I was down in Jeju. And in those like trails, people go jogging.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of Koreans topless.
Oh, wow.
And jogging.
Okay.
It's because we don't really see a lot of that. Sometimes you see that at Han River.
Maybe it's because it's Jeju.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like a leisure-oriented place, and not a lot of people are around. They're just enjoying their own travels.
And the other thing that we talked about on the show not too long ago, my friend who's visiting from New York, we were by Kimyeong Beach.
Yeah.
Fantastic there. And right by the beach is a convenience store. And so she was like, hey, I'm going to buy ice cream, but can I go into the convenience store like this? She wore a bathing suit. It wasn't a bikini.
Okay.
Bathing suit. And I said, you know what? Just do it.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah.
Because I feel like everyone else is like shoeless and they just they wear swimsuits. I think they're okay.
Yeah.
And so it was fine. So I think it depends on where it is. Anyways, today what we're going to talk about is quite a bit of a controversy. I think it was also all the more because recently we celebrate Liberation Day.
Yeah.
But in Korea, there is one thing that you never want to be associated with.
Other than bullying.
Other than bullying. Some people might say this might be even worse than bullying.
Oh, yes, for sure.
We have a term called 친일파. 친 means to be friendly or pro. Il is the Japan.
Right.
Pa is group. So pro-Japanese group or associated with the Japan, and we're talking about Koreans who sided with Koreans in the past.
Right.
And so today we're going to talk about, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners have seen this on the news, but let's talk about the Hayoung controversy.
Right.
What is the Hayoung controversy?
So basically, Hayoung is this famous actress I didn't know about, but she's apparently like in a lot of rom-com dramas, and she's co-starred with Jung Hae-in recently on a Netflix drama, which is regardless becoming very popular worldwide. And she appeared on a show, like it was a Netflix hosted show.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yes, and it's uploaded on YouTube still, and you can check it out where she's like getting asked questions about like how she, studied her role and, like where she got like the influence about like apparently she has like a medical kind of related role in the drama. And then she brings up the story about her family and especially her great grandfather. And she was like, he was an elite back then during like the Joseon and Japanese colonial era transition period. And he even like treated the late, King Gojong. And a lot of people were, complimenting her because of her family's lineage and the eliteness of it. But then people were actually fact-checking afterwards, and it was a surprise that actually her great-grandfather, it was true that he was an elite and he was like a physician, but he learned his skills from Japan, and also he had some allegations which were now revealed to be true, to be, helping the Japanese. He was on the pro-Japanese side, and it became a huge, I guess, controversy for her because of the fact, like, the optics weren't good. Like, she was proud of her family being on the other side when it was actually on the actual opposite side. So a lot of people were like, oh, you didn't even know about this and you were bragging about it, and your family's like pro-Japanese, all your wealth was probably acquired by those kind of activities. So it kind of became the biggest controversy on the internet for a while. And I see a lot of foreigners, because like K News is now global, a lot of foreigners hop into this controversy asking, like, why do you take her accountable for your great grandfather's sins and activities? Like, I don't understand. She doesn't have any fault in that, and she didn't know about it, right? But then you got to understand the context behind why Koreans are angry right now. So the reason is basically it's a PR miss. So right after that, if she just admitted clear and she wrote an apology and said, I didn't know about it, I was misinformed, and I really feel ashamed by this, something in that matter, it would have been okay.
But I think she said on the lines of, it's not true or something like that.
Yes, so the initial knee-jerk response was like, okay, like, this is not false, the rumors are not true, and she kind of denied it. On top of that, her family and her agency also denied it strongly, and they tried to minimize the situation. There were also allegations of even trying to pull down posts that were spreading the rumors.
That's right.
Yeah, so it all just became huge backlash back at her, and then at the end of the day, she admitted and she did her own research, and she was like, okay, I was misinformed, it was wrong. But the whole PR, the bad PR just blew back into her face.
So the interesting thing is when she mentioned her great grandfather being, again, I mean, you could be an elite, and if you were a doctor and you treated the king, oh my goodness, that's an honor, right? And so people are going to automatically do researches for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're going to do this researches because they're going, oh my goodness, who's this like person that I've never heard before? And how is she linked to Hayoung? Number two is, and this is something that my father told me, is usually if you lived during the Japanese colonial times and you lived well, there might be some, there is a chance that you might have sided with the Japanese.
Probability-wise.
Probability-wise. And so you're talking about people, if you, again, know, during the colonial times, some people were not allowed to go to schools. They couldn't have certain businesses. There were limitations, but if you were able to go to medical school, if you're able to go to all these places, there is a chance that maybe you had some favoritism by the Japanese government. And so I think that's where the research came in.
Yes.
Now, can we both say that even if your ancestor was affiliated with pro-Japanese, you don't automatically get canceled?
Oh, no, you don't.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's not your fault. You didn't ask for this.
As a matter of fact, there are a couple of celebrities that are tied to their ancestors being pro-Japanese, and they're still very active. And a lot of people, there's a list, but people don't cancel them because like they really technically don't have any fault themselves. They were just born into that family. And as long as they don't go out bragging about their family's wealth, then that's,
So I think really what happened with Hayoung was two things. It was number one, she was bragging about something that she really didn't know much about.
Right.
Number two is they also, even if it's your, later ancestors, your what do you call it? Years down the line, your kids and your grandkids, even though you don't blame them for what your ancestors did, if they benefited from that, then it becomes a problem too.
Yeah.
And so now all of a sudden, if Hayoung says, oh, my great-grandfather was this, he was an elitist, and then now what they're going to do is, okay, then the grandfather benefit from that.
Yeah.
Then her father benefit from that. And was she able to benefit from all that lineage that had a lot of money? And so then that becomes a bit of a problem.
Right. And I think it's even tougher more tough for celebrities because they're public figures and they live off the attention and love of the public. And if you're like a hidden entrepreneur or you're just doing your own business and you're from a pro-Japanese family, nobody's going to know about it, right? As long as you don't just like talk about it to the whole world. But for celebrities, because they're an image-driven profession, that's why I think these dynamics are very important because like that's a very big hit to your image. And in this case, like Hayoung, I don't know if she's going to be able to rebound from this.
No.
But yeah, like obviously she was hit harder because she's a celebrity.
That's right. We're going to continue to talk about this, but guys, tell us what you feel about this particular issue. There's much more to talk about, but first, let's take a listen to a song from BTS with Fake Love. Back in the studio with David Kim for K-Trend Monitoring Office, and we're talking about the controversy surrounding the actress in Hayoung and her ancestry. We got a couple of questions here. Crash Override says, I wonder how the internet was able to fact-check this. A couple of things. When you are that famous of a doctor, I think. I think you could find it. I think she also mentioned the name in it. The show, it had his face in it, and the names was out, so you could look that up. But also what's been going viral trending, is the 친일파 scanner. The pro-Japanese scanner. And so as long as you know your great-grandfather or your grandfather, whatever, your family's name, and you go into it, there's a list of, first of all, people who fought for the liberation of Korea, freedom fighters, but there's also the pro-Japanese. And so through that, you can do it. And it's hard to just kind of prove it just based on this because maybe some people could share the name. It doesn't go into details. But anyways, we'll talk about that in just a bit. Also, Made It Up says, sounds like she's in a lose-lose situation. You can't help being born into families who've done bad things. That's like we said. Even if she does apologize, a lot of people won't forgive her. It's not a Korean thing per se, but it seems pretty bad for sort of thing in South Korea. But again, we talked about how David was saying there was actors who had come out. And I think if you come out and say, oh, my ancestor got involved with this, and, I apologize, even if you don't have to apologize. But if you admit to that, I don't think there's a problem. No one is going to say, oh, it's your fault for being born into that family. But it's just how it was dealt into. But also, our producer makes a very good point because this is not old history. If you look it up, there is going to be records.
And also, from my knowledge, there is an official government investigation, and there's like a committee that did like research and investigations on who were pro-Japanese. It got discontinued for a while, but then like the current president administration is reviving it nowadays. So there's actually an encyclopedia of like a list of family names and like their ancestors who were cooperative and collaborators to the Japanese. So I think it would be pretty easy to track down like, Hayoung and her family name and then physician and age and like, the puzzle solved. So probably.
It got to the point where everyone's kind of going through all this stuff, and I even checked it myself. But let's talk about this. Again, guilt by association versus public duty. And this is the core outrage here. the controversy triggering, again, a massive societal debate on two key concepts, right?
Yeah.
Guilt by association versus public accountability and fairness. So let's talk about this.
Yeah. So as I said before, we have to draw the line where the public is not actually pointing their fingers towards Hayoung because of the guilt by association, but it's become a debate of itself. So, like, critics of the backlash argue that a great-grandchild shouldn't be held guilty for sins committed 80 to 90 years ago. And that's, I think, like, technically right, and that's very logical because, like, the child doesn't have any kind of right when they're born, right? They can't choose which family they're born into.
No.
So, like, holding someone accountable for, like, their great-grandfather's sins is, like, actually not like logical enough, not fair. But then, as I said before, like as a celebrity figure, public figures derive immense fame from the society itself, and they gain their image, and they have wealth and influence. So when that wealth and influence is originated from ancestral collaboration, because like it's very hard to become a celebrity, to be honest. You have to be like from an affluent family, a very, I guess, a well-off family
Nowadays,
Yeah, because like if you don't have any options, you'll have to go to like construction sites or become a corporate worker or something like that, right? So I think the factor that just amplifies this whole debate is the fact that in the contrary, the independent warriors, the freedom fighters we call 독립운동가, their descendants are living in immense poverty.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like people are calling for social justice here. Like, this does not make sense. The people who fought for the independence are struggling in poverty, whereas a pro-Japanese family member is now a celebrity on a Netflix show. So, like, this is the irony over here. And I think that's why people are like, we can't hold this person accountable, but at least we should recognize it and we should, have her kind of like, I guess, have some accountability socially. Yeah.
By the way, for our listeners out there, if you can prove that you are part of an ancestry where your ancestor was a known freedom fighter, a liberation fighter, you do get government benefits.
Yes.
There are benefits for this. And I think what's interesting is we don't talk too much about those celebrities who came out saying that their ancestors were pro-Japanese. But however, we do know a number of celebrities whose ancestors were renowned liberation fighters.
Yes.
I think the one name that pops up often, like Song Il-guk, right? He is the father of the triplets.
Yep.
And his grandfather was Kim Do-hwan, who was a controversial figure, but he was, he also did fight for Korea's liberation. But his Kim Do-hwan's father, Kim Jwa-jin, General Kim Jwa-jin, was probably one of the most recognizable names when it comes to generals in this liberation army.
Yes.
And so he has that lineage. And he is forever going to be linked with that, and people believe great things should happen to him.
Yeah, exactly. But the harsh reality is there's another case called Kwang Min-sun. She's a prominent sports announcer, and she's the descendant of the independence fighter Kwak Byung-do. He's a well-known independence fighter too. But apparently her great-grandfather had to pour all his personal funds and the family wealth into the activist activities. That's why it really crippled her family's wealth, and then she had to like struggle in poverty as well, and her family isn't that well off nowadays. And that's the case for, it says official survey data reveals that nearly 75% of the surviving independence fighter descendants are earn less than $2 million, which is like under $1,500, something like that. So that's like poverty level, I would say, barely surviving. And that's just not right. That's why there's a lot of anger. The president came out addressing this issue, quoting, there's a saying like, if you become an independence fighter, your 3 generations get crippled. And if you become pro-Japanese, your 3 generations thrive. So we're going to change that from now on. And he just ordered a full-scale investigation. But yeah, that's a very ironic situation.
No, and it's, even that is sort of sparking some sort of, I guess, debate too, because I think what he's also looking into is if you have property, massive property, because your ancestors benefited from that, they're going to strip them of that.
Yes.
But then it goes back to, again, if you're a grandchild, I mean, you weren't really born into this. Like, should you also be penalized for what happens?
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, again, if you look at the ancestry, how the ill-gotten lands and the ill-gotten property and stuff like that, the argument can be made that it wasn't yours in the first place. Right. And so that's why there's a lot of back and forths right now. But it is true, like you said. I mean, sure, there were independence fighters who were very well off.
Yeah.
And they, again, funded everything that they can do to fight for the liberation of Korea. However, in most cases, they were, again, very, very poor.
Yes.
Very, very poor. And if you look at some of the family, they do interviews of people whose ancestors were liberation. I mean, it's really, really pure poverty that they're going through. There must be something going. They need to do something in regards to that. We'll continue to talk about this particular issue. But guys, again, continue to talk about, give us your 2 cents on how you feel about these issues. And also, are there cases like this in your respective countries where the government got involved, or if there was a cancel culture going on because of issues similar to this? But first, let's take a listen to a song here from Espa with Drama. You got messages, a lot of messages actually coming from our listeners out there. Stephen over in Florida says, it reminds me of Jackie Chan for some reason. He was an excellent actor, but he didn't eventually get canceled. It's because of his daughter issue. You know, how he abandoned his daughter because she came out. Yeah. So I think there was some people calling for some canceling, but he's not really that active right now. So like, what is there to cancel? Let's see. The honor should mean something. Cancel culture isn't honorable. I mean, did we talk about cancel culture?
I think we did.
Right, that was like one of the first topics that we talked about. Halsey says in Brazil, we don't have exactly this kind of situation, but when someone points out familiar virtues, people say your grandparents must have whipped mine. Benny says in the Philippines, cancel culture has happened when a celebrity supports a politician who's involved in big issues. Things like that. And especially because I think were some controversies with politicians and things like that. Yeah. Steven says, I believe Hayoung is being treated unfairly since she can't control her family. However, if she was boastful about being associated with imperialism, maybe it is humbling. She didn't boast about being affiliated with imperialism. Yeah. I think her thing was she didn't know. I don't know. You would have to be pretty bad person to be boasting about the imperialism. Right. That wouldn't happen. No, that would not happen.
Yeah, that wouldn't be able to happen. Yeah.
But also, I think part of me says if she knew that her great grandfather was associated with Japan, she would not. You have to be not smart to boast about it. I think that was legitimately she didn't know. She just heard that her great grandfather was this really.
She was misinformed.
Right, but again, it's the steps that she took. She should have said, after doing some research, turns out, yes, and I apologize for what our family did. But the initial reaction was, it's not true. Right. That's where it becomes a problem.
I think for up and rising actors or whoever wants to become like a celebrity or an idol, I think they should do a self-checklist among their family, whether there were any pro-Japanese or whether they had any bully activities before. Yes. So they should probably check before.
Which we're going to get into in a little bit, but here's something that is kind of crazy. Something called the traitor roast party.
Yeah.
매국노 조롱잔치.
Yeah. So now there's rage in the public, but a lot of people mostly just write them through comments, and then they make protests, or maybe they just send it up to the government and make the government do investigations and those kind of things. But the MZ, I don't think the M, it's probably Gen Z right now.
Yeah.
The Gen
Z's and the Alphas.
Yeah.
The Zaz.
Exactly. They have a new way to clock these people, to roast these traitors. And they're actually making parties calling 매국노 조롱잔치. I've seen pictures of these. And apparently they rent out these birthday cafes. It's usually done from K-pop fans. And they rent out a space, and then they decorate it with the faces of these traitors, the pro-Japanese people like Yuan-yong, Yoon Dong-yong, all these people. And they have rising sun flags over there. What they do is they step on over it, they cut it in half. They make punch bags out of these people, and they every person who has to enter this house has to punch their face.
Yeah.
And they have like these squishy bags or merch where they have like the face on it, and they can like use it as a voodoo doll or something like that.
Yep.
So it's a very unique way to actually, you know, remind that, yeah, our country was liberated and these people betrayed our country. And I think, you know, some people see it as unserious.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, is this a proper way to actually, you know, commemorate? But other people say that, oh, like, this is better than nothing. You know, the younger generation should at least have access to this kind of information out in this way, whatever means possible.
There's the very famous the four Ursa traders.
Yes.
And Hayoung is basically Hayoung is the equivalent of Benedict Arnold in the United States, but probably even bigger. And so basically when Korea was liberated, his grave was exhumed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah.
Right? They just basically took his body and whatever they did with this. But because this whole thing with pro-Japanese background is becoming such a very sensitive matter, and like you said, if a celebrity wants to become famous, one of the things they need to do is check to see if there was any bullying allegations, even with the parents, right?
Yeah.
Did the parents have any bullying allegations? Because you remember Frisia,
Yeah.
they dug into her parents and all the weird stuff that was going on with that. But now there are digital digging that you can do.
Yes.
Let's talk about the digital digging.
So yes, this has also started from the Gen Z as well. They're very digital friendly. So the young Koreans turned like archive checks into a viral trend. So there's this AI-driven site called Is My Family Pro-Japanese? It's called the Chinil Scanner, the pro-Japanese scanner, and it saw over 2 million hits on Liberation Day alone, letting users type in their surname and lineage to instantly check government records for both independence fighters and collaborators. So for me, I could like type in Kim Kim, which is my surname, and then they would
put Jeonju-lee, there's a list.
Yeah, they would show a list. Who are the collaborators? Who are the pro-Japanese? And you could follow your family tree or something like that, and you know, prove that you were not from a pro-Japanese or find out a big secret.
I had to call my dad and be like, Dad, what was Grandpa's dad's, my great grandfather's name? And he let me know. Yeah. And I literally sat down there looking at name after name after name, making sure that his name doesn't pop up. And I also asked my grandmother's side, all of that stuff. Luckily, it didn't come out. Yeah. Luckily, it didn't come out. But this is what it is. It's the big thing. But there's also... But again, can you be blamed, right? Even if you find your ancestor's name there and you didn't benefit from this, I don't think anyone is going to go, oh, you're a pro-Japanese or you should be canceled or anything like that. It's how you deal with it.
Right. So if you're just like a normal person having a normal life, then there's no reason to actually reveal it in the first place. But if you were a celebrity or a public figure and people might dig up your past and your family ancestry, then you might take different trajectories, you know, like you might do some charity work or you might do some donations towards the independence warriors and like, oh, I'm very shameful of my family.
There are foundations where they help families of those from the liberation fighter lineages, because again, many of them are
in poverty.
Yeah. And so you could deal with that. And I think it helps even more. I would feel bad, even if it was not my fault, I would feel terrible if I found out my great-grandfather was pro-Japanese and he benefited from that.
Right. So the best example is Shun from Jinushan.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's not pro-Japanese. His family's not as well, but he's just a philanthropist. Yeah. And he does like marathons for the independence warriors, and he crowdfunds money and builds them houses alongside with Park Bo-gum. So he's a very well-known figure.
He runs 81.5 kilometers. Every August 15th. So that's that. All right, David, interesting topic. And for our listeners out there, thank you very much for your input. Have a fantastic rest of your week. We'll see you again next Monday.
Thank you.